Morning, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over 4 years ago to help people stay connected by telling each other stories around this virtual campfire. I know, over 4 years. It's such a long time. It really is. And we've had so many wonderful guests, and we have some wonderful help as well. SIFWA actually has given us a Givers Fund grant for 2024 to help us keep everything moving. So welcome back to those of you returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. Two people we're especially excited to have joining us for the first time are tonight's readers. Tonight's readers are Geneve Flynn and Casey Mead-Brewer. Folks, if you're here on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat off on your right. If you're joining us on Facebook, feel free to chime in. If we don't chime back in, it does not mean we don't love you. It just means we're a little busy on the Zoom. Get to you, I promise. Our first reader tonight is Casey Mead-Brewer. Casey Mead-Brewer lives in beautiful Baltimore, Maryland. She is a graduate of the 2018 Clarion Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Workshop and of Tin House's 2018 Winter Workshop for Short Fiction. Right, I know. Her eerie short story, The Daddy Thing, was one of Electric Literature's 32 most read stories of the decade. For more, you can check out her website, caseymeadbrewer.com. Now, we have something a little special tonight. Casey Mead-Brewer is reading us something that takes place underwater and is apparently calling us from some black void that you can just imagine to also be underwater. So, Casey, are you there?
I am here. I am here beneath the waves. Thank you so much for bearing with me in this darkness.
It's where we always hoped to meet you.
Thank you so much. This story that I'm going to read to you is called Hold Your Breath. It was originally published with Uncharted magazine. Toe-curling things happened down at the lake house. Sex, of course, and howling, and injuries, and a couple disappearances, drownings, and once a kid hanged himself from the loft banister, and another time a handful of teenagers tore out of there claiming that the walls had started bleeding. And no, they weren't high. Why would you even ask that? People say things live in the lake, but of course things live in the lake. Fish, April thinks, ducks, algae, frogs. Lakes always have things living in them. Not like this, people say. Not like our mermaid. The mermaid who doesn't need water or air to breathe. No, she breathes souls, they say. She breathes death. Climbing out of Tessa's old car, darkness rushing in as soon as the headlights go out, April is struck by the oddest sensation of sinking, as if she were descending into something. The feeling makes her shiver, but she pretends it's because she's cold. Yes, cold in the middle of July, and cuddles close to Tessa's side as they approach the house. Tessa lets her get away with it. In the dark, fireflies blinking all around them, the lake house watching. Tessa might let her get away with anything. Tessa's the one who first told April about the Frenchman, one of the lake's more colorful ghosts. Tessa's version is the one where the Frenchman gets murdered by his lover's husband. The jealous husband caught them fooling around at the lake house and, in a crimson rage, beat the Frenchman bloody and dumped him in the lake to drown. Delighted by this offering, but disturbed at how dented and warped his face had become, the lake's mermaid began piling mud into his mouth and into his mouth and into his mouth, trying to fill his face back into its original shape. He's called the Frenchman, Tessa explained, because of the way his mouth hangs open now with all that mud, as if hungry for a kiss, for tongue. For life, she whispered. Everything about the lake house is hungry. No one's arguing with that. This random house that's always been there, standing guard at Kingdom Lake, yet never owned by anyone. A house that's always empty right when you need it to be. A house that leans a little, like a smirk. Just behind the house, the lake itself. Dark trees huddle about the water like worshippers, their empty spaces curling with silver fog, an entity that seethes. But the lake does not seethe or wrinkle or undulate. Beneath the wisping fog, the lake is a glassy black stillness, as black as the darkness surrounding a lit keyhole. If April pressed her eye to this keyhole to spy on the brightness within, if she pushed her face as close to it as she could, pushed below the water itself, she releases a pent-up breath. She clutches Tessa's hand extra tight. For a moment, it's dumb, of course, so stupid, but she was sure she heard the lake speaking to her. She was sure she heard a voice whisper, "You never have to hold your breath with me, lovely girl." When April's nervous like this, she thinks about where she wants to put her first tattoo. The silhouette of a centaur against a spindly black tree. Maybe on her shoulder or over her left breast. She can't get it until she turns 18, still another 2 years away. And thinking about it reassures her that that day will still come. She'll be fine. Nothing's going to happen. She'll live. She has to. She hasn't even gotten her tattoo yet. All at once, they're at the lake house's gray wooden door. All at once, it's open. And that's it. They're inside. The walls stretch up around them, and April's struck once more by the sensation of descent, as if they were stepping down into the lake outside instead of stepping up through the house's front door. The walls are carved with hundreds of hearts, initials, and dates, a vast sexual history that wraps eagerly around you as soon as you step within. April can't help but think of the memorials they saw on their school field trip to DC that one summer. So many bright names etched into so many dark walls. Not all ghost stories are romantic. April squeezes Tessa's hand. Tessa must be wearing a dozen different rings, and April relishes the bite of each one against her fingers. Tessa squeezes back, grinning a grin that says a lot of things, some of them a little mean, but April doesn't mind. The meanness is part of what April likes about her. "You've really never come down here before?" Tessa elbows her. "Not even with one of your boyfriends?" April pulls her long brown hair into a rope over her left shoulder, twisting it. Tessa's a lesbian, April's first girlfriend. "You can truly be yourself with me," Tessa once told her. And all April could think was, I was myself with them too. Still, Tessa does make her happy in a way she's never been before. Tessa makes her feel exhilarated, powerful. Tessa gets her to agree to things that she never would have thought herself capable of, things like coming to the lake house to add their names to the wall. April felt sure this was a euphemism at first, but then wasn't so sure, and now hopes it is and dreads it might be, and she's saying, "You don't think it's a little weird, being in someone else's house?" Tessa takes out her pocket knife, the one in the shape of a mermaid, and gestures with it to all the names staring down at them. The lake house belongs to everyone. April tries not to focus on any particular name. It scares her more than she'll admit, the idea of seeing her brother's name on the wall. He's away in Iraq now, living around people she'll never meet, but who he might kill or be killed by. She doesn't know how far the mermaid's reach might extend. Keeping the names unfocused, she pretends they're just a strange pattern in the wood grain, nothing at all to do with sex or death or history. Tessa presses a kiss to April's fingers and says the fateful words, "Come on, I want to show you something." Tessa is a character. She's white like April and dyes her hair an even starker white, leaving her eyebrows dramatically dark by contrast. She loves baseball and Mads Mikkelsen and Sully Wise, the contortionist who famously went missing 2 years ago when the circus came through town. Sully Wise didn't go missing, Tessa will tell you. She folded in on herself until she disappeared. Tessa's sternum is pierced with a pair of silver studs. They only show with certain tops, like the one she's wearing now. She loves romance novels, but hates the words dewy, folds, creamy, and spunk. Tessa acts all confident, but April knows things about her. She saw her in the girls' bathroom last fall. Tessa has secrets. Tessa's a lake, too. "Show me what?" April asks, pretending not to know. The stairs creak beneath her old cowboy boots, and she wonders which banister that kid hanged himself from back in the 80s. The house has a mustiness that reminds her of her father in a way she really doesn't like. The various rugs are worn and thin, patchy like the fur on the moose head that lurches above the fireplace. And all around them, as they descend the stairs, Claire plus Sam, Josie Hart's Rob, Tom and Fiona and Kim, R plus H, spitters or quitters. And the more April tries not to focus on them, the more the white etches look like claw marks or scratches at the inside of a coffin lid. Bright flashes of movement beneath dark waters. Maybe she'll get the tattoo of one of her thighs or across her lower back. It's in the bedroom, Tessa tells her. And something about the word bedroom wraps around April's chest so tightly that she can hardly breathe. April knew this was coming. Coming is the whole idea. She's never had sex with a girl before, but she's excited and nervous. And this is fine. This is great. Tessa's wonderful, sexy, funny. They've been dating a couple months now. They've already had their hands all over each other, inside each other. Mouths are different, though. Hands may play, but mouths only know how to drink and devour, how to breathe in whatever's given them to breathe. Tessa doesn't know this, or maybe she's sensed it, but April's never done oral with anyone before. It always struck April as more intimate than other kinds of sex, more personal somehow. She fantasizes about it, sure, but the actual doing of it, she's nervous she won't taste right. Perhaps oddly, perhaps not, she isn't nervous at all about taking a taste for herself. She's always loved the idea of consuming someone, of feeling them come ecstatically apart as she does so. There's the rub, she supposes, the difference between eating and being eaten. The lake house will be the perfect spot, Tessa told her. Mermaids are the perfect symbol for you, a good omen. Symbol? What are you talking about? Half lady, half fish, Tessa explained with a grin. And April got the joke only slowly. Oh, because I'm bi. Half this, half that. Which half of her sexuality was meant to be the fish, April couldn't guess and didn't want to try. Tessa laughed and April followed suit. Tessa's been out for years. Loosen up, April reminded herself. It's just a joke. Come on, says Tessa, winking at her. I promise I won't bite, says her mouth. And before April can say anything at all, there they are at the bedroom's door. Despite her best efforts, April's been imagining a ghost bride type room, peeling wallpaper and cloudy mirrors, decrepit silk and elaborately framed oil paintings of wan, tragic women. But really, it looks like frat boys just dredged up garbage from the bottom of the lake. A large, lumpy bed made up with a stained floral blanket, a general stink of beer and mold, a ragged deer head leering out of the wall, and a pair of laminate nightstands, each topped with a broken slag glass lamp. The fog has let itself in through an open window, making itself comfortable about the bed. Maybe this gust of unimpressive reality should make the entire situation easier to handle, funnier, and less romantic. But instead, it all just feels more intense. People come here for sex. They have come here for sex. April squeezes her arms around her middle. Maybe she could get the tattoo on her hip. Is this normal, she says, an abandoned house with just all this stuff in it? Even as she asks the question, though, an odd part of her knows absolutely the lake house has never been abandoned. It belongs to the ghosts, to the mermaid who breathes them in, the mermaid who lives in the lake, or the house, the lake house, a house lake, a lake made of house, a house made of... Here it is, Tessa says, waving April over to the bed. The fog makes room for Tessa, closing around her in a way that makes April feel seasick. Tessa sits on the bed, maybe hoping to be alluring, but then quickly stands again. April pretends she didn't notice. Tessa fiddles with the studs at her chest the way other girls might fiddle with a locket. See it, she says, softer now, and points with her pocket knife to a section of the curved headboard, a spot marked with XR Dreams in KJ. That's him, the Frenchman. Oh, really? April aims for cool. And how would you know? You said you'd never been here before. My sister told me about it, Tessa says. I thought she was shitting me, but these are definitely his initials. I can feel it. April knows what she means because suddenly she can feel it too. The realization like a stiff feather sliding down her cheek, spreading goosebumps. And look here, Tessa says, tapping her knife against a slanted SW. Guess who? April shrugs, cradling her elbows. Who? Tessa grins, and it's pure sex. The bed is all but pulsing beside her, emanating heat. It's our very own Sullywise, she says. Just imagine what positions she folded herself into on this thing. But April doesn't want to imagine that. Nope. No, thank you. She doesn't want to imagine the Frenchman with his face bulging full of mud, Sully-wise bent backward into a bony, fuckable knot. If the mermaid hadn't liked the look of the Frenchman's beaten face, April doesn't want to know what measures she might have taken to iron the tangles out of Sully-wise. The back of my neck, April thinks. If she keeps the tattoo small, she could probably fit it there. So where do you want to do it? Tessa says. And all April can think is, not here. I really want to, but not here. Tessa laughs a little, the kind of laugh that's deep in her chest, and reminds April that one day Tessa will be a woman in her 40s, seated comfortably in her full power. And dear God, how irresistible she'll be then. It's too much to even think about. Overwhelming. Finally, Tessa takes pity on her. I meant carve our names. Where do you want to do it? April releases another pent-up breath and almost laughs at herself. But the voice is there again, right at her ear, as chill as the curling fog. You never have to hold your breath with me, lovely girl. April can't tell if it's a man's or a woman's voice, or both, she realizes. Both, all, yes and. April closes her eyes. She's breathing in wet mouthfuls of fog. How did it drift all the way up here? And Tessa's waiting with her knife at the ready, and anxiety wrestles about April's body anew, gripping tighter and tighter, because signing your name means something. It's an agreement, a pledge. Keep your name out of Jack Slim's book, her grandmother used to say. Jack Slim. April can't remember where Oma got that name for Satan. Jack Slim's always hungry, she would say. Jack Slim loves nothing better than to eat a little girl's soul. I don't know, April says, meaning, I don't know about this. But Tessa must have heard, I don't know where we should do it, because she takes April's hand again, all those rings prickling against her fingers, and says, I know just the spot. April's following her out of the room, and the fog comes with them. A shadow moves on the wall, and she refuses to wonder if it might be Sully-wise crumpled up and crawling like a spider. Sully-wise, who signed her name to the house. And now they're going to sign themselves over as well. They're going to belong to the house too, to the mermaid, like that kid who killed himself, like all those people who drown in the lake every couple of years, like the Frenchman. She'll be just another name on another memorial wall, except all the tourists who come to see it will rush to add their own names to the list. Even those who escape will forever feel that slight maddening itch at the back of their brains. And the bodies will keep piling because it never ends. Her brother isn't coming home, and why did he leave in the first place? It's just another name on a wall. It never ends. It never stops. And what? Tessa asks, looking down at April's clutching hands, her stone-still legs. What's wrong? But what can April say? How can she explain? Lying is much easier. What's the point of carving our initials in here? Everyone else has already done it. Up the ante, she decides. That's always the quickest distraction. I don't want our names on anything but each other. The points of Tessa's smile look so sharp, it's easy to imagine pricking your finger on them. You mean like a tattoo? No, April says. And then she hits on it. What really does seem like a winning idea, a match strike, what will get them out of the house the fastest, right this instant, away from the names, from the bed, even if it takes a bit of pain to do it. I mean, like a blood ritual. They're outside in no time, as if the house melted from beneath their feet, a sand castle dragged quietly out to sea, to the lake. It's cool here. The fireflies are fewer now that it's so late, but a handful still blinker on through the fog like tiny lighthouses. Tessa's pocket knife is out, the small blade pulled from the mermaid's body like a sharp silver soul. They haven't discussed anything, have come to no agreements, yet both of them have their white hands stuck out in the purple darkness, palms up, ready to be bloodied. You know, this really isn't what I had in mind when I suggested we come out here tonight, Tessa confesses, fiddling one of her piercings. April tries to laugh, but can't quite manage it. She thought it would be easier out here in the open air, but nothing about the lake feels open. Somehow they've only swum down deeper. She hates the idea of cutting herself, of blood dripping everywhere. She doesn't like the idea of being naked either. Her body's fine, really. It's just that she doesn't like it, and sometimes she hates it, but she says, should we just skip the knife and skinny dip instead? Oh, what is it, baby? Tessa teases, stirring the fog with her knife. Afraid of something permanent. You can't keep stalling forever. It's possible Tessa doesn't mean anything by this. Even in the heat of the moment, April sees that. But it doesn't change the sting April feels because of it, the veiled accusation that perhaps only she can hear. "Oh, stop your fretting about it," April once overheard her Oma say to her mother, trying to comfort her. It's no coincidence that her brother goes off to war and suddenly she declares she's gay. Kids need attention. It'll pass. Sometimes, late at night, April worries she's only dating Tessa as her proof, her evidence that she's bi, and wonders why her ex-boyfriends don't feel like proof as well, why they feel like marks against her instead. She clutches herself against the vining thoughts, but it's no use. They drag her under again every night. She wonders if it's normal to be so unsure of one's own motives and desires, the details shifting around, everything murky and swirled and variable, as if she were an urban legend of herself. "What was that?" April asks, looking out across the water. It's her favorite moment in every horror story. What was that? But it doesn't feel so fun right now. It was a splash. She's certain she heard a splash. The chill from the lakeshore mud bleeds through the soles of her boots. The fireflies are gone. The trees bow lower, genuflecting to the water, and April wonders once more what it would be like to press her face to this keyhole, to bend closer to the water until she could spot who was moving around within it, just for a moment, just a peek. No one will ever know. It's not spying if it's your own room you're peeking into, a voice whispers. And there, April can see her, a woman twisting nimbly inside a lavish, wavering chamber, a woman with a fish's tail and flowing hair, a woman with her mouth open, just a bit, whispering, "Yes, lovely girl, you can truly be yourself with me." "I'm not like you," April says. "I'm not half this and half that." "Neither am I," replies the mermaid, and her smile is so soft as mud, as lovely as moonlight. And for once, April doesn't mind the sensation of sinking deeper. There's something so perfect about relaxing into this voice, so natural about it as she says, "I'm not half anything, lovely girl. I am my own creature." "Yes," April says, startled by the rightness of it. "Yes, exactly." "You never have to hold your breath with me," says the mermaid. "You never have to hold anything back with me. All you have to do is sign your name." April reaches out and her fingers find the mud. No knives necessary in this water-softened world. She wonders how far back Sullywise could have bent if her body had been made from this watery place, if she could have soaked till her bones were noodles and her skin as pliant as algae. April smiles at the lush feel of it all, the smile opening her mouth, and "Yes," says the mermaid, "yes, you're so fresh. Breathe, drink me in." But April's gasping instead of gulping, hands grasping at her, pulling at her, and the mermaid's shriek is so piercing April can hardly understand a word out of Tessa's mouth as she says, "Fuck, April, stop it, you're scaring me." April's soaked. Tessa's soaked. Her head was in the water, her chest, her arms. She was in the water, fully dressed, and I kept trying to pull you out, but you just kept sinking like you were being dragged, like you were... And Tessa's terrified. That's plain to see, her chest heaving and those piercings glinting in the moonlight, her knife discarded in the mud. April reaches a hand back into the dark water without meaning to, without discussing it with herself, and Tessa snatches it back out again, abruptly furious. "What the hell, April? What was that?" Tessa pushes wet clumps of white hair out of her face. She looks very much like a drowned ghost bride, and April almost giggles at the thought before a violent cough grips her, lake water choking out of her. "Shit, you really scared me," Tessa says, and wraps April in a tight, trembling hug. "What happened? What was that?" April clings to her, saying nothing. She takes deep, rushing breaths to anchor herself against the water's pulsing allure, a thing that curls like a finger under her chin, urging her forward, down, deeper, below. "You could truly be yourself with me." With you, April thinks, and it's her brother who steps up to the front of her mind, the strangling crispness of his uniform. No one can be themselves if they can't breathe. April clutches Tessa closer, gasping in breath after breath. "I can breathe," she tells herself. "I'm breathing. I can breathe. I'm April. I'm me. I'm mine." She will keep telling herself this the rest of the evening, as Tessa steers and steadies her on the walk to the car. That squelching is the sound of their own sodden footsteps, not the Frenchman's, of course not. As Tessa drives her home, as Tessa kisses her goodbye, or good night, she definitely meant good night, not goodbye. As she stands wet and alone before her bathroom mirror, cleaning the mud out from under her nails, carefully not thinking about how it got there or whose initials she might have clawed into the walls of Kingdom Lake. Thank you so much.
I knew how that one ended, and it's still, ah,
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
that was great. Wow. All right. It is our way at Story Hour to take a moment between the readers to catch our breath, find some stillness, and ready ourselves for another onslaught. Everyone, that was Casey Mead-Brewer from the bottom of a lake somewhere. Hope you're doing okay there. And our next reader tonight is Geneve Flynn. Geneve Flynn is a multi-award winning author, editor, and poet. Co-editor of Black Cranes, Tales of Unquiet Women, and collaborator for Tortured Willows, Bent, Bowed, Unbroken. Winner of 2 Bram Stoker Awards, a Shirley Jackson Award, an Aurealis Award, a Brave New Weird Award, and a 2022 Queensland Writers Fellowship. You can read more at geneveflynn.com.au. Genevieve, welcome to Story Hour.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm a little bit intimidated after listening to Casey read. My gosh, wow! Not sure I can follow that up. Holy moly!
I think you can.
Okay, well, I'm going to try. I'm going to read my story, A Box of Hair and Nail, which was first published on Pseudopod, and it's still available to listen to there. And it's been reprinted in Brave New Weird, Volume 2 by Tenebris Press. So this story was inspired by an urban myth that terrified my mum when she was a teenager in Malaysia. And the legend went that if you didn't dispose of your nail and hair clippings properly, an unwanted admirer could steal them and take them to a Bomo, a Malaysian shaman, and they would put a love spell on you. But rumor is that it happened to somebody and it all went terribly wrong. So this is my take on this urban legend. Little sister clipped the last nail from big sister's slender toe and carefully placed it in the carved rubberwood box. She made sure she had 20 clippings, and although her clubfoot made it difficult to crouch, she checked that every piece of hair she had trimmed from her sister's head was accounted for. Big sister snorted, not unkindly. You don't still believe that old tale, do you? She examined her reflection in the pocked mirror on her bedroom wall. Even with the window open, both sisters were covered with a sheen of sweat. At least little sister perspired, big sister glowed. Papa was only trying to scare you into behaving. The young women shared a sorrowful glance. Their mother had passed 6 years ago from tuberculosis. Last month, their father had been killed in a logging accident in Sabah. Another piece of their shrinking family gone. No, it's true, little sister said, pushing the ache in her chest away. If a man steals your hair and nail clippings, he can take it to the Bomo and have him cast a spell on you. Then you'll be under the man's control. You'll have to be his wife forever. I will be no one's wife, big sister said with a sniff. I don't care what magic the shaman does. She shrugged out of her slip and pulled on a brightly colored top and skirt of her kabaya. It was much more form-fitting than their father would have allowed. She swept her thick glossy hair up into a bun and applied a slick of lipstick. She grinned and headed for the door. My life is only going to be kissing and fun. Little sister watched as big sister walked along the path that led to the village, her hips swaying with each step. Any number of suitors would be awaiting her presence at the dance. Little sister never went. No one could see past her deformity. She only ever left the house to visit the wet market or to buy fruit and vegetables. As big sister rounded the bend and disappeared from view, the bushes behind her parted. Little sister stared, breath held. There had been wild boars in the area lately. they could be dangerous if meddled with. A thick-set, bow-legged man emerged. The Bomo. Little sister frowned. Had she summoned him with her talk of love magic? What if he had overheard Big Sister's disparaging words? She watched as he crept after her. Prickling cold ran down Little Sister's spine. Even from her position at the window, she could see the avarice on his face. The next day, the Bomo appeared at their door. "Is Big Sister home?" His smile was open and sunny. Little Sister had no good reason to refuse him. He was respected in the village. It was said he had followed someone beyond the edge of death and lived to tell the tale. She kept her face smooth as she nodded and stepped aside. His gaze lingered on her as he entered the house. Then his eyes dropped to her twisted right foot, and distaste crossed his face. "Who is it?" Big Sister called. The Bomo's expression cleared as she entered the living room. "Oh, Tuan," Big Sister said, using the honorific reserved for people of high regard. She dipped her head. "How kind of you to visit us." The Bomo settled himself in a chair and stretched his bandy legs out. "Tea," he said to Little Sister. "Barley water if you have it. Not too sweet." Little Sister hesitated for a second. Then, at Big Sister's scowl, she hobbled into the kitchen. "My condolences, Big Sister." His voice rumbled from the living room. "It must be difficult for you to manage. Now you have to look after a cripple on your own." "She's more capable than you know." Big Sister's voice was low and firm, and Little Sister's heart swelled. The Bomo chuckled. "Still, without a father and a husband, it's hard, yes?" Big Sister made no answer. "I find, despite my position, I'm without a wife. I think we could come to a sensible arrangement." Arrangement? Little Sister slowed her stirring. She had put double the sugar into his barley water, and it was taking a long time to dissolve. "Yes, you need a husband, and I need a wife," he continued. "You're of an age, and your beauty makes you a suitable match for a man of my stature." "Tuan, I'm honored, but we haven't observed the proper 40 days of mourning." Big Sister's voice wavered artificially. "It's only been 36 days since we lost our dear father." There was a creak of a chair. "Of course, it wouldn't do to disrespect the dead. I understand completely." Little Sister peeked out from the kitchen as the Bomo walked to the front door. He turned and smiled. This time, it was as dark and laden as a monsoonal storm cloud. "I'll return the day after tomorrow." When he had rounded the bend in the path and was out of sight, Little Sister spun. "What an odious man!" Big Sister sighed. "But he's right. Without our father or a husband for me or you, we are at the mercy of fate. We still have some of the money Papa left us, but that cannot last forever. And my work pays so little." Her dark eyes glistened. "I make light that I will never marry, but we both know I must." Little Sister took her hands and squeezed. "But it's so unfair. He'll use magic against you." "Oh, little one, you and your superstitions." Big Sister squeezed back and smiled sadly. "He won't need to. Now that he has announced his intentions, no one else will dare to come forward." Big Sister had gone to work. She taught at the local school, and Little Sister hoped that the children might help Big Sister forget their troubles, at least for a while. Little Sister fussed with the skirt that needed mending, the Bomo's words circling her head like a cloud of noxious mosquitoes. When she pricked her finger for the third time, she put the sewing aside. She had to take precautions. She got up and limped into the woods, searching the forest floor and gingerly checking thorny plants for coarse tufts of hair. Nothing. After a few minutes, she came across deep furrows in the ground that had filled with last night's rain. Already, tiny insect larvae wriggled in the shallow water. The surrounding mud was torn up with many bull hoof prints. She would have to be careful. She bent to one of the smallest impressions and eased a broken crescent of nail from the soil. Little sister, where is my brooch? Big sister was running late to meet friends in the village, and as usual, had misplaced her things. True to his word, the Bomo had left them alone for a day, but the tension had soured her temper. Little sister shuffled in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her skirt. Isn't it on the dresser? Of course not. That's where I looked first. Big sister rummaged in the cupboard. Why do we have these silly boxes? There's no room for my clothes. Just throw them out. That will invite bad fortune. Little sister hobbled over to the dresser and picked up a carelessly discarded headscarf. Underneath was the leaf-shaped pewter jewelry. Here it is. Big sister spun and beamed. Ah, finally! Little sister pinned it to a top and smoothed a stray hair back into place. Big sister hugged her tight, the brooch an uncomfortable point between them. I'll be back at midnight. Don't wait up. She pecked at her cheek, straightened her skirt, and was gone, leaving only the faint scent of orchid in her wake. With a sigh, little sister began writing the contents of the room. She bent to the cupboard and stopped. Heart quickening in her chest, she lifted the various baskets and piles of clothing. Her sister's rubberwood box was gone. The Bomo arrived with a basket full of ducklings and a goat the very next morning. I'm here for my bride, he announced at the door. Big sister drew a fuming little sister behind and inclined her head. Thank you, Tuan, but I cannot accept your proposal. His expression darkened. She held up a placating hand. Yet, we must observe the full 40 days of mourning. It would not do to have any rumors of ill conduct around our courtship. Yes, I suppose you're right, he muttered. He narrowed his eyes, then nodded. Soon you will come around. You may leave the ducks and goat. That's a show of good faith, Big Sister said sweetly. He stared at her for a long moment, then dumped the basket and thrust the goat's rope into her hand. Without another word, he departed. Big Sister exhaled and sighed. He will be back, Little Sister muttered. Yes, but the mourning period doesn't end until after tomorrow. I bought us another 2 days. Big Sister smiled impishly. And 4 ducks and a goat. Little Sister tried to return the smile, but her thoughts were of the rubberwood box of hair and nails. It was only a matter of time before he used it. The lowing of a cow announced the Bomo's arrival the next morning. Tuan, how nice to see you again. And so soon, Big Sister said politely. He dipped his head a mere centimetre. I've come to claim you. Little Sister bristled, but again Big Sister held her back at the door. We thank you for the cow. You are too kind. The Bomo grinned and passed her the rope. He went to step inside the house, but Big Sister blocked his way. But I have decided not to marry you. His face clouded with confusion. But how can you refuse me? I'm sure you would not want the refusal to be public, so I make it here, now, Big Sister murmured, to spare you. But I brought you the ducks, the goat, the cow. Big Sister returned his meager bow. We are most grateful for your kindness. A Bomo should look after the vulnerable in his village, no? With these animals, we now have enough to survive. All will know of your generosity, and that you ask for nothing in return. He huffed and spluttered, mouth twisted with all the things he wanted to say. You'll change your mind, he snarled. Just wait and see. He spun on his heel, stormed down the path, and disappeared. A furious hammering startled Little Sister from her troubled dreams. She tugged on her house dress and hurried to the front door. Big Sister had gone out with friends for the night. What if something had happened to her? Little Sister swept the door open and gasped. The Bomo brandished a boar's head. The neck was a ragged mess. Gore splattered her face and she tasted warm iron. "Where is she?" the Bomo bellowed. She wiped her mouth and drew herself taller, heart thumping. "What is the meaning of this? She has refused you. Now leave us in peace." His eyes bulged and his mouth split to reveal a gritted mouthful of teeth. He shook the bloody head. "She did this. She switched the hair and nails." He twisted and lifted his tattered shirt. His back and buttocks were scraped and scratched raw. "The pig came at me like a beast. I almost couldn't escape its attentions." Little sister bit her lips together. What a sight that would have been. "You dare laugh?" He drew his parang from his belt. She froze. The 14-inch blade hovered under her chin. "Don't worry, little sister," he smiled, a demon in a red mask. "This is for big sister. I will take what is mine by right, and I will teach her to respect me." "No!" Little sister glanced at the clock on the wall. It was midnight, big sister's favorite time to return from her jaunts. "She wasn't to blame. Take me. I will be your wife." He tossed the pig's head at her feet. She forced herself not to step back. "Maybe I will, big and little sister. Why not?" He was gone before she could wake her numb arms and legs. Little sister hobbled after him, following the sound of his footsteps and furious muttering. Her stomach was a sour twisting knot. What had she done? She shuffled as fast as she could, but each step sent a jag of pain from her ankle up to her hip. She paused to listen. Only the calls of night birds and frogs answered her. Something crashed through the trees to her right. A woman's screams pierced the night. Silence fell in the forest all around her as the creatures crouched, hoping the violence was not for them. Little sister sobbed and hurried on. Big sister did not come home that night, nor the night after, nor the night after that. Little sister searched and searched, but there was no sign of her. The villagers said she must have gone to the next town with a suitor. After all, she had so many. No one blamed such a beautiful young woman with so much promise for abandoning a cripple. Little sister fell into melancholy, and the villagers agreed that big sister had made the right decision. Little sister went long days without washing. She had let her ducks run off, and her goat had grown his beard too long. He was often found wandering a neighbor's garden, chewing on the clothes hung out to dry. The cow broke from her pen and found better pastures. Little sister no longer visited the wet market, nor brought fruit and vegetables to eat. She was terribly thin, and her hair hung like a greasy curtain over her face. Some say she had become a ghost. After 2 months, something had to be done. With her deformity, she had little chance of being married off. In her current filthy state, none at all. The elders called a midwife from the village next village over. They thought it wise not to summon the Bomo. Little sister had been heard raving about him in the days after big sister had left. They felt it best not to involve him. It seemed to work. Little sister began eating, and her ducks once again had gleaming feathers. Her goat was now plump, with the tail lifted happily on most days. The cow had been rounded up and was back in her pen. Little sister even began grooming herself. She would wash in the river, wrapped in her sarong, then make her way back to her house, humming an old love song. She would sit at the window, brushing her long, silky hair. At times, she would place her shapely left foot up on a sill and carefully and patiently trim one nail after the other. The Bomo crouched in the shadow of the trees and watched. Apart from her bent right foot, he saw that she was as beautiful as Big Sister. He had not been able to couple with Big Sister. His rage and humiliation had been too great, and damn her, she had fought like a mongoose. No matter, he would take little sister as his bride. The midwife had brought her back from being a ghost. Perhaps she could do something about the foot too. He watched as she gathered her nail clippings and pieces of hair and placed them inside the new rubberwood box. He made sure not to blink as she closed the lid and tucked the box back into the cupboard. She turned her back and allowed the sarong to fall from her body. He sucked air through his teeth. She drew on a red and orange kabaya and wove her hair into a glossy plait. She disappeared for a moment, then reappeared at the front door, still humming her song, as if calling to him. She locked the door behind her, and, in the light of the fading afternoon, she began her slow progress into town. Now was his chance. With little sister's box tucked under one arm, the Bomo rushed back to his house on the edge of the village. The sight of little sister, her smooth and naked back framed in that window, had inflamed him, and he could not wait a moment longer. At the doorstep, he glanced around, then hurried inside, closing the door behind him. He lifted the lid of the box and breathed deeply, nostrils flaring at the sweet scent of orchid. Big sister had favored this perfume too. Soon he must prepare, then perform the ritual by the cover of night. Dusted in ash from the strangler fig, and naked except for a sarong tied around his waist, the Bomo crouched over the stove. He coughed at the acrid stink of burning keratin swirling around him, but did not dare stop. It was difficult magic. Any little misstep of the wrong ingredient could bring terrible results. He had not used all the hair and nail clippings in little sister's box. He had kept some back, just in case little sister proved to be just as intractable as big sister, and he needed to repeat the ritual. He intoned the final words, then went to wash and change. This was his wedding night, and he wanted to be presentable. As he smoothed down the thinning strands of his hair, he heard a shuffling step outside. He grinned and adjusted his trousers. At last. He had had enough of going to the sisters, hand held out to them. Now it was time for one of them to come to him. He hastened to the front door and laid his ear against it. Again, the sound of hobbling steps outside. He closed his eyes and imagined he smelled orchid. Would the skin between her breasts be redolent with that scent? He swung the door open with a grin. The path was empty. With a frown, he stepped aside. Little sister, where are you? The hiss thump of a dragged foot sounded around the corner of his house. He saw the flutter of long hair in the darkness. Then it was gone. The shape of little sister's back and the gentle curve of his buttocks flashed in his mind. His pulse quickened. He circled after her. His thump. This time it was from inside the house. With a chuckle, the Bomo spun and hurried in after her. He peeked into the kitchen, the living room, the first room. No little sister. The game only set him afire. His thump. The squeak of bed springs from his bedroom. He began stripping off his coat and shirt. He pictured her in his bed, her lovely hair spread out around her, that awful foot mercifully hidden beneath the sheet. He yanked at his clothes, hopping from one bandy leg to the next in his hurry to pull his trousers off. Why had he bothered with so many garments? Finally, naked and ridiculously erect, he crept into his room. The sheet was pulled up to her ear. It seemed her back was to him, as all he could see was a head of dark hair and the delicious line of her hip. She must be shy. It was up to him to make the first move. He grinned. Hello, my bride. I've come to claim you. She rolled over, and his straining member wilted like a dying flower. Hair sprouted from every inch of her face and body, thick and black. She opened her mouth and sang, and the room seemed to swoop around him as he saw rows and rows of nails growing from her tongue and cheeks. She threw back the sheets, and although he had long waited to see the perfect globes of her breasts, he uttered an airless shriek. More thick, dark hair marched down her chest, belly, and legs, waving like filamentous worms. Yellowed nails budded from her ribs and at odd points along her breastbone. 2 talons jutted from her hips. The scent of orchid, earth, and rot filled the room. And all along Big Sister's body were the gaping wounds from his parang, crusted with the soil he had piled over her corpse. His thump, from behind him, the Bomo spun. Little sister stood in the hall, tears streaming down her face. Big sister, she murmured, I finally found you. The creak of bed springs. He spun again. Big sister had risen, and her arms were held out, beseeching, her milky eyes fixed on him. Her crowded mouth tried to smile. My love, she cooed. She took a step forward. His thump. Her leg dragged, the muscle of her thigh split where he had struck that fateful night. He looked to little sister in horror. What did you do? Little sister held out the rubber wood box. He recognized it as the one he had used in the ritual. You wanted a bride. She has come to claim you. His thump. He shrieked as big sister laid her hands on his shoulders. Tendrils of hair pierced his skin, and slowly, inexorably, as he struggled like a fish in a net, she turned him to her. Please, no, he shrieked. I can reverse the spell. He twisted his head back towards little sister. You found her, he gave a trembling smile. It's all right now, don't you see? I helped you find her, that's all. Big sister pursed her lips and drew him ever closer. More thick strands of hair burrowed under his skin, and he wailed, I gave you ducks, and the goat, and the... His words were swallowed as big sister lovingly pressed her bristled lips against his. His eyes bulged and rolled as her tongue thrust into his mouth, razor nails along its length slicing into his. He thrashed and pummeled her, but she only sighed and embraced him tighter and tighter. Hair began to envelop them both, speckled with ochre-colored nails, some thick, some slender and delicate. Around and around the cocoon wove. With a thump, the nest of hair toppled and lay twitching. Little sister shuffled closer. The boma's single wildly rolling eye sought her out. There was no other sign of anything human. Whatever had been her sister was long gone. She laid big sister's box of hair and nails on the floor, walked to the kitchen and found the boma's keys. She hobbled outside and circled the house, locking each window and door. When she arrived home, she checked that her rubber wood box was still snug beneath the floorboards, then went to feed her animals. Thank you.
Wow.
I love that story so much. You performed it so beautifully.
I love it even more hearing you read it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do worry when I read that one how people are going to take it, because it does end quite terribly.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
No, love
you.
it. Just love it.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
What a gorgeous progression of stories tonight.
Indeed.
Beautiful together.
Thank you so much for having us both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has really been magical.
Come on back anytime.
Yes. Both of you.
Thank you.
I promise not to be from the bottom of a lake next time. So
Don't make promises you can't keep. The story may have done it to us. Sometimes the stories have their own minds.
It's very true. This is very true.
So Daniel and I will be back next week, as every week. Next week, our readers are Michael Conley and Raven Oak. I recommend checking storyhour2020.com the day of the reading for any announcements, any changes. It's also a good place to check the schedule for upcoming authors and to look through the recordings list and see if you may have missed any programs. You can also browse those on the Story Hour page on Facebook. Well, Genevieve Flynn, Casey Mead-Brewer, thank you so much for sharing your stories tonight.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
It has been our honor and our pleasure. And I must also thank you, Daniel, because if you had not started Story Hour, literally none of us would be here right now. And thank you, all of you who are here now listening, all of you listening at some point in the future, for joining us. As long as we all enjoy these same stories, we're all in the same Story Hour. Good night.